One, please. One, please. One, please. No. What?
That asshole! That big, smelly, ass-sniffing asshole! I want to get him! What a stupid asshole!
I'm just saying that I can come up with $16 for operation. They're gonna put her down. Come on, good pony. That's it.
Now bite it off! Bite off the wiener! Get pony! He is not smarter than me. He just charmed me, that's all. He's a charmer, that Scott Tenorman, but I'll get him someday.
Oh, no, pony, he'll like that.
One, please.
That'll be $6.
Okay, and how much is that in cubes? Because of Scott Tenorman.
You may take our pride, but you'll never take my goddamn $16.12!
Here you go.
Oh, wow, thanks a lot, Scott.
But just one thing before I give it to you.
What?
I want you to beg for it.
Hey, it's Ozzy from Blame Canada, the channel where we cover all things South Park. If that sounds like something you might be interested in, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at what is widely considered by most fans to be the best episode of South Park. The episode that changed Eric Cartman forever. South Park Season 5, Episode 4, Scott Tenorman Must Die. An episode that lays the foundation for Cartman to become the depraved monster long-term fans of the show know him to be.
Yeah, Mom, I'm holding a meeting for all the people who love the passion as much as I do.
Where Cartman is repeatedly tricked by 8th grader Scott Tenorman to his absolute breaking point. Leading to arguably Cartman's most heinous act in the entirety of the series, setting the tone for the kind of twisted mischief and depravity that his character has become known for.
Cartman, you ate the skin off of every piece of chicken!
The skin's the best part.
Well, I gotta go home, guys. I'm gonna sit on the toilet and read comic books.
This episode begins with Cartman pulling up cheerfully on his big wheel to the bus stop, eager to brag to the other boys about how he got pubes before them.
Well, guys, it seems that I am the first one of us to reach manhood after all. What the hell are you talking about? Well, because unlike you guys, I just got my first pubes.
The joy Cartman felt when he thought he had something over on the boys is super funny compared to the grim and nasty reality of Cartman's purchase. Made nastier by the fact that throughout the entire episode, aside from his mittens, Cartman is handling these pubes without gloves or like a bag. No barrier at all, just a fistful of pubes. Seeing how proud Cartman is of his pubes is so funny. He's just so smug.
Don't be jealous, guys. This doesn't mean we can't still hang out. It just means that I matured faster than you. You'll get your pubes, guys, someday.
After the boys explain to Cartman that pubic hair grows as you mature and that the only reason Scott sold them to Cartman at all was because he was dumb enough to buy them, Cartman is pissed, so he leaves to go confront Scott. When Cartman gets to Scott Tenorman's house, he tries to get his money back from Scott, but Scott refuses. After Scott refuses, Cartman leaves, but not for long, as in the next scene we see Cartman back at Scott's house dressed as an IRS agent, using the alias Chris Christopherson. Cartman tells Scott that he owes the IRS $10, but seeing through Cartman's ill-conceived disguise, Scott quickly calls out what's really going on.
I'm here to collect $10 that you owe in back taxes.
You're not from the IRS. You glued my pubes onto your face.
Once Scott realizes that Cartman is going to continue, he does a quick change scam on him.
Here, just give me the $6, and then I'll give you the 20.
Okay.
Now, give me the pubes, and I'll give you back $2.
Right.
Now, give me the 12 cents, and I'll give you the rest of your change back. And then give me the 20, and I'll give you the pubes.
Sweet.
God damn it!
Which is hilarious, because like in real life instances of quick change scams, Cartman had no idea he was getting scammed until the transaction was over, showing how much more competent Scott was than Cartman. In the next scene, we see Cartman drowning in coke as the boys go to see a movie and Cartman tries to pay with pubes, which goes about as well as you'd expect trying to pay with pubes would go in real life. After Cartman was turned away from the movies, where else would he go but back to Scott Tenorman's house, naturally. Scott was visibly annoyed to see Cartman back on his porch, and before Cartman can even finish trying to manipulate Scott to gain access to his house, Scott interrupts Cartman to tell him he wants to buy his pubes back, even offering $5 on top of all of Cartman's money back. In my opinion, Scott, being sick of Cartman's constant visits, was trying to give Cartman an easy out. Like, if Cartman would have taken Scott up on his offer, I feel like Scott would have given him the money just so Cartman would stop coming around. However, when Scott explains to Cartman why he's willing to pay for the pubes back, that it might be a potential way for Scott to make some money at a pube fair in Fort Collins, Cartman decides greedily and maliciously to not sell Scott the pubes back, because he thinks he could make that money instead if he goes to the pube fair.
They're paying $5 a hair for pubes. If I leave now, I can catch the last bus.
$5 a hair? That's like $1 million.
Here, take your money.
I don't think so, Scott. I'm going to Fort Collins myself.
Oh, you can't do this to me. No!
Haha, sure you are, Scott.
I love how Scott plays this. Like a discovered attack in a chess match, he expertly uses Cartman's masochism against him, like with the quick change scam earlier. Tenorman masterfully uses Cartman's belief that he's going to end out on top against him. After a glee-filled bus ride to Fort Collins, Cartman gets off the bus, and when he asks a random passerby where the pube fair is, the man tells him there's no such thing before a guy approaches Cartman with a package, the package containing more of Scott's pubes. In the next scene, we are shown Cartman looking disheveled and dirty as he once again approaches Scott Tenorman's house. Cartman explains to Scott that he had to ride for 106 miles in the back of a pickup truck to get back to South Park. Cartman pretends to give up, telling Scott he won, before, as he was walking away, trying to manipulate Scott's empathy, as Cartman told Scott that he really needed the money because...
Well, my grandma's in the hospital. She's very sick. Doctors say unless I can come up with $16 for operation, they're gonna put her down.
Scott pretends to feel bad and agrees to give Cartman back the money, but first, he wants Cartman to do a few things.
Now dance, little piggy. Dance and oink for me.
I'm a little piggy, here's my snack. Oink, 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 oink. I'm a little piggy. Now give me back my money.
After Cartman danced around Scott's porch for him like an asshole, Scott explains to Cartman that he shouldn't care about $16 because it's not a lot of money. He backs this up by explaining that he gets $50 a week from his parents and that Cartman's money means nothing to him.
This pittance means nothing to me. Watch.
What are you doing? No. Why?
Now you can't bug me for your dumb money.
After Scott burns Cartman's money, he goes back into his house, leaving Cartman destroyed on the porch. You almost feel bad for Cartman, because Scott is at such an advantage, being so much older and smarter than him. But it's not like Scott Tenorman is marching over to Cartman's house to make his life worse. In a way, Cartman is bringing the punishment from Scott onto himself, because he keeps going back to Scott's house in an attempt to get one over on Scott and get his money back. It makes you wonder if Scott offered to sell Cartman the pubes in the first place, or if Cartman asked Scott to sell him the pubes. Based off how eager Cartman was to brag about the pubes at the beginning of the episode, I'm willing to bet that Cartman would have been the one to approach Scott first. So while Scott Tenorman might be taking advantage of Cartman, and might not be very kind to him, in my opinion, this whole episode might just be the consequences of Cartman's actions. In the next scene, we see Cartman holding a meeting in his basement with the other 4th graders of South Park, where he attempts to discuss how they can work together to deal with Scott Tenorman by having his wiener bitten off by Mr. Jenkins' pony. However, the others don't really want to help Cartman, so he's left to devise his plan alone. Before we see Cartman made a scarecrow up to look like Scott Tenorman that he fitted with a hot dog to its groin area, while he tries to train Mr. Jenkins' pony to bite off Scott's wiener. However, unfortunately, the pony is content to, for lack of better words, suck the wiener.
That's it. Now bite it off. Bite off the wiener. Get pony. Oh, no, pony, he'll like that.
While Cartman struggles to train the pony, he's approached by Ned and Jimbo, and after Cartman explains to them that he's there to teach the pony to bite Scott Tenorman's wiener off, they warn Cartman.
Well, does Mr. Jenkins know you're using his pony? He shoots trespassers on sight, you know.
He said it was okay.
Jimbo explains to Cartman that if he really wants to get revenge on Scott, that he's going to have to think like a hunter, which is on-brand advice for one of the hosts of South Park's public access television hunting show, Huntin' and Killin'. When Cartman asks Jimbo what he means, Jimbo explains how to get revenge in 2 simple steps. Step 1, find someone's weakness, and Step 2, exploit that weakness, which is a mindset that Cartman seems to carry with him for the rest of the series. Later that night, Jimbo and Ned bring Cartman to scout out Scott Tenorman's house from a bush outside, and Cartman learns that Scott is a huge fan of the band Radiohead. Before their stakeout devolves into a strange sort of peeping Tom session, where they check out Scott's mom, Mrs. Tenorman, as she changes by the window. As a viewer, you think to yourself, well, this probably can't get more deranged. But after Cartman leaves the bush, Ned actually starts masturbating.
Maybe I should go grab some beers, Ned. Ned, are you jacking it?
Kinda.
Well, stop it!
Which is super fucked up and wild on Ned's part, especially considering Cartman was likely still nearby. Hilariously, Mr. Tenorman came out and yelled at them before it's shown to us that it wasn't just Ned, Jimbo, and Cartman out there, but also a lot more of the fathers and men of South Park, with at least Randy March, Gerald Blavlosky, and Stuart McCormick in attendance.
Hey, what the hell are you doing out there?
Oh, crap!
Who's out there?
Ned, for Christ's sake, stop jacking it.
I can't.
Don't think I don't see you. I know who you are, and I'm calling the police. I gotta get out of here.
In the next scene, we see Cartman start to put what he's learned from Jimbo and Ned to use. We're met with Cartman once again on Scott Tenorman's porch, where he invites Scott to come see a Radiohead interview that's playing that night downtown on a big screen. Later that night, we see a bunch of people gathered to see the interview, and Scott did show up. Everyone stands eager, only for the interview to be footage of an old interview that Cartman had voiceover dubbed to be the band Radiohead talking shit about Scott. Scott, realizing that this was another pathetic attempt by Cartman to get even, left. And when Cartman realized Scott was gone, he was at first very excited.
Did you see that? Scott must have ran home so embarrassed. And you know what? That wasn't really Radiohead talking. I just dubbed their voices over.
However, this didn't last long, as once again Cartman had been bested by Scott, because Scott had been recording when Cartman called himself a little piggy, danced, and begged for his money back earlier, and he was prepared to show everyone that on an even larger TV screen. This was so funny to the people of South Park that it actually literally killed Kenny.
Oh my god, he killed Kenny!
This was Cartman's final straw. He was beyond pissed, and he spent the next night planning his revenge on Scott Tenorman, meticulously taking every variable into account and planning strategically around them.
You think you're so cool, Scott Tenorman? We'll see how cool you feel after this.
The next morning, we see Cartman explaining his plan to Stan and Kyle, and he seems super manic as he tells them that he intends on combining his last 2 plans into one master plan. Stan and Kyle, clearly uninterested, tell Cartman that he's a dumbass before leaving. In the next scene, we see Radiohead reading a letter from Cartman where he explains that Scott Tenorman has cancer in his ass, and that he really wants to meet Radiohead while he's still alive. Based off of their reactions, it seems that Radiohead is actually going to show up.
Wow, we have to go.
To Colorado, but we've got an album to mix. Didn't you hear the letter?
This poor kid has cancer in his ass.
We're shown in the next scene that not only did Stan and Kyle not have interest in helping Cartman with his scheme, they actually actively work against him by warning Scott Tenorman over the phone about Cartman's intentions. When Scott asks them why they would tell him, their response is hilarious.
How do you know?
'Cause we're his friends.
Then why are you telling me?
'Cause we hate him.
As soon as the phone is hung up, Cartman is ringing the doorbell. When Scott opens the door, Cartman is standing on his porch with flyers for his ChiliCon carnival. Cartman's attempt at hiding his hatred towards Scott is super funny to me because it's so unconvincing. It's also funny how when Cartman gives Scott a ticket for a free pony ride, Scott subtly gets irritated because he knows it's Cartman's attempt to get a pony to bite off his penis.
Gosh, chili, rides, and ponies? What more could I want?
A little penis biting perhaps?
What?
Nothing.
Scott Tenorman, always one to be a step ahead, tells his parents that Cartman was there to tell him about a starving pony on Mr. Jenkins' ranch, and that he wants to go help the pony, but he's got a lot of homework to do. Scott's parents, being super kind, tell Scott not to worry about the pony because they themselves offer to go take care of it. After Scott's parents leave, we see him cooking chili before his equally douchey friends come over with a big bag of pubes that they've collected from every kid in town, which Scott proceeds to dump of its entirety directly into his chili.
Little fat kid thinks he's gonna get revenge tomorrow. We'll see how he likes it when I tell him he just ate the pubes of every kid in town.
Yeah.
That is fucking diabolical work. After all of the buildup of this episode, we have arrived at Eric Cartman's ChiliCon Carnival, which he is hosting in his front yard at his house, and the turnout is pretty big. To be fair, I could see free chili and 25-cent pony rides being pretty popular in real life too. Stan and Kyle come, and it's clear that they aren't there for chili. They came to see Cartman's plan blow up in his face.
This is the dumbest thing you've ever done, Cartman.
Oh, it won't be so dumb when Scott Tenorman arrives. I suggest you stay to see the fireworks.
Oh, we will. Trust us. We wouldn't miss this.
What's so funny?
Oh, nothing. It's just cool how you're gonna get Scott Tenorman back. Is Radiohead here yet?
We see Chef arrive with his chili to enter it in the contest, and Cartman's response to Chef is so telling of his true intentions.
Hey, Chef.
I made some chili to enter into the contest.
What contest?
This is a chili cook-off, ain't it?
Huh? Oh, yeah, I guess it is.
It's always great to see Chef. You forget how long it's been since he was in the show, especially if you like to rewatch older episodes like I find myself doing. And finally, the guest of honor, Scott Tenorman, arrives. Cartman starts laying on the fake kindness immediately, and both of them are so eager to get each other to the areas for their respective revenge plots, which I find hilarious. Cartman wanting Scott to go check out the pony and be near it when his special guest arrives, and Scott wanting to get straight to the chili contest portion of the carnival. It's funny how truthful they're both being when they say,
Oh, I wouldn't miss this for anything.
Likewise.
Cartman folds and decides to do the chili contest first. Before we get to the judges table, I gotta warn viewers with weak stomachs that this next part isn't going to be their favorite. As Cartman and Scott Tenorman sit across from each other at the table, the crowd is smiling because they think that Cartman is about to be publicly punished again by Scott. As they both eat their chili, Scott decides that this is the moment where he will reveal to Cartman that he put pubes in his chili. When Cartman takes not just Scott, but all of the spectators and the viewers at home for a mindfuck of a hard left turn. When he explains that he switched the chili Scott made out with chefs, that he anticipated Scott's chili would be tampered with, but that's not all. He revealed that he knew Stan and Kyle would betray him. I'll let Cartman explain the rest. I mean, it was his plan after all.
I assumed that they would tell you that I had trained Dankin's pony to bite off your wiener. Dankins is a crazy redneck who shoots trespassers on sight. Knowing that you would go and try to do something to the pony, I warned Mr. Dinkins that violent pony killers were in the area. I also knew that you wouldn't go yourself. You would most likely send your parents. When Mr. Dinkins spotted them on his property, he shot and killed both your parents.
Isn't that such an awful thing that Cartman's done? He's literally gotten someone's parents killed over $16.12, and if that wasn't bad enough, you're not gonna believe this.
I came just in time to steal the bodies. After a night with the hacksaw, I was all ready to put on my ChiliCon carnival so that I could tell you personally about your parents' demise. And of course, feed you your chili. I call it Mr. and Mrs. Tenorman Chili.
Yep, that's right. Cartman fed Scott Tenorman his own parents in the form of chili.
My mom and dad are dead! No! No!
And that's not all, because seconds after finding out his parents were killed and that he's eaten at least some of them, Radiohead shows up and calls him a crybaby before Cartman literally licks the tears off of Scott's face and the episode ends. It goes without saying that nobody saw this coming, and even though I've seen the episode many times, the ending is always shocking and disturbing.
Jesus Christ, dude!
Even after everything we've seen Scott put Cartman through, if you ask me, there's no way to justify Cartman's revenge at the end of the episode. Especially if you consider that Cartman himself was most likely the one to approach Scott to buy his pubes off him, and not the other way around. Scott Tenorman Must Die is an iconic episode that serves as a great introduction to the darker character that Cartman will become, and I love it for that. What did you think about the episode? What episode do you want to see me cover next? Let me know in the comments below. I might just choose your suggestion. If you haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe so that you'll never miss a video from the Blame Canada channel. If I don't see you tomorrow, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.